There's a very special interaction coming your way. It's an exclusive. And the person I'm talking to is someone who's been an Indian cricketer. He's turned into a commentator, an author even. Of course, we go back a long way where I've produced him as a cricket live expert. And today we're sitting across here. It's the first time ever. But Sanjay Manjrekar, thank you so much for speaking to us here on First Sports.
Yeah, as a producer, not a great talent to work with, as you found out during our uh, initial days.
No, you're just being too modest. I think it was good fun back then, and I hope it's going to be fun here as well, speaking to you. But we have to speak about the IPL. You know, it's been quite a few matches in. There have been many closely fought, high-scoring contests. How do you look back at the tournament so far? What are your takers?
IPL, see, every edition of the IPL has actually become better and better in the sense, with regards to appeal, uh, the popularity and viewership. So on that front, it's been brilliant. What we now see, and obviously that has been the biggest takeaway so far from this IPL, is the number of runs scored. Almost 15 runs and over per innings recently scored. So those kind of things are which are getting your attention. And the other day we were doing an interview with Ashwin, who reads, the game more than just do his job. And he's absolutely right. Every season you see the IPL evolving, and in a sense, T20 cricket evolving rapidly. Test cricket took its own time. T20 is like the format is also evolving rapidly.
And speaking of evolving, one of the rule changes that really sort of broke a lot of the perception and changed IPL was the impact player rule. It started off very great, but now, of course, teams have started figuring it out, and that sort of created a bit of a controversy as well. Many daggers coming out. Where do you stand as far as impact player rule at this point is concerned, Sanjay?
See, the fact of T20 cricket when it came into being was the overs shrunk to 20 overs per innings, but the amount of batters remained the same.
Yeah.
So automatically that was a huge advantage. Bowlers still had a restriction, of how many overs they could bowl. With 50 overs, obviously it was a longer period, but 20 overs and the same amount of wickets. So obviously there is a little more freedom and license for the batters to, go for the bowling and try and attack from ball number one. So it has always been skewed in favor of the batters, more so T20 cricket from the other formats. And what we found out is that because the format is so heavily loaded in favor of a batter, the impact batter is making a
Yeah.
greater impact than an impact bowler. Let's not forget, you get an additional batter as an impact substitute, but you also get an impact bowler as an impact substitute. But because of the format and the general conditions around a match, the impact batter is making a far greater impact than the impact bowler.
So do you see the powers that be sort of going back on this, tweaking this around? Because, like you said, it is skewing the game even further in the favor of the batters.
I don't think fans are complaining. There was a gentleman sitting next to me on a flight, and he was just, he was so excited with the amount of runs Sunrisers Hyderabad scored. So, I when the fans start getting put off by
Yeah.
something, then obviously then you have to have a look at it. We don't matter. People who are within, you know, the former players who played Test cricket, 50 overs cricket, and now involved with the IPL. It's really the fans who make the event. So, I mean, different people have different
Yeah.
expectations. We constantly talk about balance between bat and ball. That is as we as former cricketers and who follow and who've been involved in the cricketing world and the game. But if the fans like it, I don't think anything will change too much.
Right, but going by all the action that's happened so far, the close contests, the high-scoring contests like we're setting up, which are the teams that you think, or which team that you think you've been most impressed by?
Rajasthan Royals. Just the fact that the first three games, Butler didn't fire, Yashasvi Jaiswal didn't fire, and they still won matches. Sandeep Sharma, somebody who really helped them win the close matches in the first few games that they played. Suddenly, he was unavailable for 3 matches.
Yes.
Rajasthan kept winning. There was one game when Butler didn't play, Ashwin didn't play. Rajasthan still won. So it's one of those teams that is not reliant on one or two players. The last game, obviously, Butler single-handedly won them the game, but it's a team that uh, doesn't have a very obvious weakness. With Sandeep Sharma gone, I guess there is some weakness towards the end when Kuldeep Sen bowls. But the team with the least weaknesses, and there's some quality in their batting, in the seam bowling, as well as spin. And very few other teams can boast of this kind of a combination.
You know, you're speaking of a star batter there in Joss Butler. You know, I reached out and I spoke to so many players who played with him, whether it's Rajasthan, whether it's in England, a lot of the management as well. They all speak about how he's such a down-to-earth, quiet sort of a guy. But I would like to hear your thoughts, basis your interaction, especially after that match with him.
My interaction is limited to speaking to them in an official capacity after the game, and I try and understand. I mean, I had the privilege of talking to him after that great innings, and he doesn't like to talk about himself, which is something that I found out from earlier times. So I put him under pressure, saying that you don't like to talk about yourself, but we need to get an insight as to how you are able to play these kind of great IPL innings. He's got, I think, 7 IPL 100s, 3 have come in run chases. And the hundreds from memory have always been ones where he stayed there till the end
Yeah.
and won the game for the team almost single-handedly. He's done that on numerous occasions. So obviously it's completely related to the nature of the person, which in cricketing term we call temperament. And that is what separates him from the others. I think the kind of skills that he has, the shots, I think there are quite a few batters around in IPL who have the same set of skills and maybe the same kind of ability. But it's his temperament that sets him apart. He's one of those few batters who will get 80 runs out of his 100, not really finding his rhythm and his touch, but he just keeps backing himself. And in the end, is able to hit that, peak. And we see the best of Joss Butler in the last 20, 30 runs, which the team needs, and Butler also needs to get to his 100. So that is where he's pretty unique in the way that he keeps backing himself when he's not playing well, while quite a few batters would throw their wickets away and leave it for the others.
Yes, which is exactly what he did in that last match in that monumental knock that he registered and he played. But the T20 League is also not just about these senior hands; they're also about the youngsters who keep coming through. Who are the lot, or which of this particular lot has really piqued your interest and have possibly got the selectors thinking as well?
I hope because he's not getting as many opportunities, the selectors don't forget about Rinku Singh. I think he's a straight-in walk-in in that Indian team. And every time he's got those limited opportunities as well, you see how good he is in the sense, the consistency, the range that he has. So he's obviously somebody that I like from the obviously the core of the Indian team, from apart from the big names that we always know, that we're thinking about. So he is one. The other batter who has played for India has been around for a long time, but finally, I think he's come to a stage where people, what they were expecting, is starting to happen. That is Sanju Samson, with his consistency, maturity, um, and when he's playing and he's on song, um, India need that kind of a player in their T20 team. So he's another that I really like. Rian Parag is interesting. I want to see him the whole season because some of the innings that he played, the peak of Rian Parag, I think very few can match. Very few young batters can match his sort of peak. So that is very interesting. But we'd like to see the whole season how he goes about. But yeah, when I'm looking at players, I'm looking at more T20 batters. I think India might just struggle to get quality T20 seam bowlers.
The other thing about this particular edition, Sanjay, is that we've seen so many new captains at the helm of quite a few teams. Who do you think have really sort of found their feet in this particular year?
Shubman Gill, I think, looks very comfortable. It's not an easy job. And I like the way that he's just come in and looks like he's somebody who seems naturally suited to lead the team. And good to see that it also hasn't affected his batting too much. Uh, Again, I have to go back to Sanju Samson. Who would have thought, a few years back that he would
True.
be the kind of leader that he is today, very calm, relaxed. I've not seen enough of Ruturaj Gaikwad in the sense to know how he is doing, because the fact will always remain that there is a Mahendra Singh Dhoni right next to him all the time. So when Ruturaj Gaikwad is entirely on his own on the field, then we can judge him. But I would say Shubman Gill, Sanju Samson have been quite impressive, and Pat Cummins, how he's leading Sunrisers Hyderabad in the sense that he's leading by example, and just the amount of commitment that you see from him as a captain has been impressive.
Right, time to put you in a bit of a spot. We're at the halfway mark here, pretty much 6-7 games at the league. Who are your 4 teams that are likely to make it for the playoffs? Your pick.
This is always like a bit of a wild guess, and very often we don't get it right. But at this stage, it's easy to back Rajasthan Royals and Kolkata Knight Riders. I see Mumbai Indians eventually finding a way. CSK, Sunrisers Hyderabad are the other teams. But I want to stress on this aspect that we always talk about the final four. And in the end, who remembers the final four of the IPLs gone by? It's about winning the playoffs and winning on the big night. And that is where you have to look at a team which has players who love the big stage. And that is where I feel this time around Sunrise Hyderabad having somebody like a Pat Cummins and a Travis Head, you might think they have the kind of players that might excel on the big stage. That's where Mumbai Indians also have an advantage. And that's where Rajasthan Royals might be tested, and Kolkata Knight Riders as well. So we'll see. CSK obviously have always had that temper with MS around.
You speak about Kolkata, Sanjay. Just looking at the way they've sort of gone about their business this year, a lot of the individuals who have suddenly started turning up to work with such an impact. Do you feel the reason to that? Do you reckon the reason to that could be someone like a Gautam Gambhir who's made that change?
Sometimes it's easy to connect one force that has made the difference. I'm never sure about how much of a difference one person has made to the side, but Sunil Narayan's success as an opener uh, is something that has really changed the fortunes of KKR, plus his bowling as well. So he's had a huge impact on the team's performances. So whoever decided to back Sunil Narayan and make him open and has got the best out of him is somebody that you've got to admire. Kolkata Knight Riders, last season also, there were a few things to like about them, but Sunil Narayan wasn't doing what he's doing. Andre Russell is back in form. He's also bowling. So how much has that got to do with Gautam Gambhir? I have no idea. So that is something I'm never certain about, but I can see what has changed with Kolkata Knight Riders and Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell, Rinku Singh as a guarantee down the order, and Sunil Narayan, the bowler. I think all these people, all these performances have made a huge difference.
Right, but what has been the most disappointing aspect or the most disappointing performance or something that's let you down at this particular edition of the league?
I think clearly death bowling. What has now become pretty evident is that, like the other day, we had Joss Butler playing Harshit Rana,
Yeah.
the 19th over, crucial part of the game. But look at the disparity and the imbalance there. Joss Butler, one of the greatest T20 batters with hundreds of T20 games, versus Harshit Rana, who almost like a rookie bowler. So that mismatch comes into play a lot in IPL. And death bowling is tough. And most bowlers that we see bowling the final 3 overs uh, are afflicted by anxiety more than skills. They all have the skills and they'll pull off all the skills beautifully in the nets. But on the big stage, in a run chase, even if the required rate is 15, 20 per over, It's the bowlers who are more anxious than the batter. And that's why you see people who are temperamentally brilliant, like the Bumrahs and the Rashid Khans, always win that battle. And because batters are now so used to playing fast bowlers in the final few overs, they
Yeah.
know everything that's going to be coming at them. They expect the slow bouncer, they know the line with the field set. So they have become better at it. And because there is a lot of inexperience and bit of anxiety, as I said, that sets it, the batters seem to be winning that battle too.
Yes, that conversation with Jasprit Bumrah, particularly about death bowling, shed quite a light on and gave us a lot of insights. But we speak about the Mumbai franchise there. You have to speak about Hardik Pandya. You were there at the Wankhede. You've sort of seen a lot of the matches as Mumbai has gone. It is tough being Hardik Pandya at this point.
I think things are starting to turn around. We're seeing that now because the kind of players that they have. They have the best T20 bowler in the world. There's some real powerhouses there in their batting. Slightly short on spin, but Shreyas Gopal keeps going. They bowl well in one game.
Yeah.
They'll have somebody there as well. I think eventually they'll find a way to get into the final rounds. There's just a lot of batting power there. And with bowling, people like Akash Madwal, Bumrah, Virat Kohli is starting to look good. I think they will reach the final rounds. Coming to Hardik, it was always going to be a tough job for him, considering how everything happened. Everyone was taken by surprise. So Rohit Sharma now has become the most liked, personality in Indian cricket. I think the fans have warmed up to him as the India captain. They've been able to sort of gauge what kind of person Rohit Sharma is. So the captaincy being taken away from him has been the angst for the fans, and it's not so much about Hardik Pandya taking over because he had the credentials to be the captain and player. So it was tough, the kind of reception that he got. But there was a very important moment at the Wankhede Stadium we were commentating when again, in the game after the toss where I said something and that got a little
Yeah.
bit of attention. The next game, again, it started. The booing started. And right in front of us, there was a set of 20, 30, young boys and girls who got up and said, Hardik, Hardik, chanting for Hardik, pro Hardik sort of chants. That immediately that caught on. And then the booing was like in a minority, it got completely covered up by the Hardik chanting. And that for me was a great moment, which showed that there are more people who are willing to encourage. We might think that we are living in a world, especially in social media, where everyone's trying to pull everyone down. But that was for me right out there, very visible majority thinking it's not fair for the captain and we got to support him. And I think things will change for Hardik. Must be the toughest phase for him personally because when you have the whole ground not rooting for you, it can be very difficult.
Yes, for an Indian cricketer to be booed, especially in India, it's difficult.
It has happened to quite a few Indian players, and I've seen the effect it has on the player when the whole ground goes sort of anti you, start booing you. Um, it affects the player.
And he's an important cog as far as India's plans for the World Cup is concerned. Fans are booing an Indian cricketer ahead of one of the most important tournaments, and that's clearly affecting his performance ahead of the World Cup.
Yeah, but you can understand the fans not thinking that way. They're just thinking about Mumbai Indians. They're thinking about Rohit Sharma. If the captaincy was taken away from somebody else, they would have been more supportive. See, Hardik is an amazingly talented cricketer. That is what makes him special. And we saw his, output in that semi-finals on a big stage T20 World Cup semi-final in Australia when he got those 60 runs when India was really slow to begin with, how he was able to come in and give India some score in the end. So that is Hardik's greatness. India-Pakistan match in the UAE as well, the last over finish. So on the big stage, he gives you the big performances. And that is why Hardik Pandya will always be somebody that the Indian selectors would want. And once, he starts playing for India, he'll start enjoying himself. And I'm sure the enjoyment phase will start now because the fans are now supporting him more than they were earlier. But playing under Rohit Sharma, I'm sure he'll enjoy it more. There'll be no pressure. But India wants Hardik Pandya, the all-rounder, more than just Hardik Pandya, the batter.
We are speaking of the World Cup and the selections, Sanjay, so time to put you in a bit of a spot here. Who is your top order for the Indian T20 World Cup squad? There's a lot of talks already going around.
It's a really tough one. Yashasvi Jaiswal's, I think, form will be watched, and he would be ideal with Rohit Sharma as the openers. And after that, I don't want to get too much into naming my exact number 3, 4, 5 because we have to be aware of the kind of fans and I think have been almost quiet on social media. So I'm very extremely wary of giving interviews and these kind of opinions. I used to give because it's always sort of misconstrued and it's like Sanjay Manjrekar has opened his mouth, let's try and make a story out of it. So in my head, I've got my players that I would want and players that I wouldn't want. But I wouldn't name them. I would name guys that India shouldn't leave out. The Rinku Singhs and Sanju Samson, I think, is in serious contention for me. And Chahal, I think very rarely do you see somebody holding the purple cap. That's the number of wickets, that's quantity of wickets, but with it, the quality of wickets that he's taken as well. So he's another guy who should be in contention for the spinner spot. That's all you're going to get.
You mentioned Sanju there. There's a big race on for the wicket-keeper batter slot at the Indian squad for the T20 World Cup. Rishabh Pant still number one choice?
See, I'll say this, that first of all, I mean, the greatest takeaway from this IPL has been Rishabh Pant with regards to Indian cricket. I mean, who would have thought that this guy will come in? I thought, he might play as an impact sub and bat may not keep, but he's doing everything, which is unbelievable for what happened to him just a few months back. So that is the greatest news from this IPL is Rishabh Pant and the thing with Rishabh Pant. And that is what India need to focus very seriously on is have players who will come up with their best performances on the big night. India have made it to the semis and finals of ICC events, but haven't managed to win it. So pack your team with players who are going to be temperamentally brilliant. You saw in the World Cup, 50 overs World Cup, how Australia beat India, where Australia temperamentally just raised their game to the next level. And that is where Rishabh Pant is your man. Because we've seen this guy has that quality where you see the best of him when the challenge is really severe. He's out of the box. So he's somebody that will be topmost in my mind.
You speak about big match players. One of them is, of course, Virat Kohli. There's a huge debate on whether he deserves a spot in a T20 World Cup, especially in the Indian squad here at this point. He's constantly trying to, of course, answer his critics with his bat, doing all the talking. But where do you stand in this raging debate?
My view, having been involved with Indian cricket over the years, is that Indian fans and Indian, mostly all of us around the Indian cricket team tend to think about an individual and how that individual fit into a team, and especially when it comes to the iconic players in the past, Tendulkar and everybody. It should be more about what the team wants. And I've maintained this right from the start that come the time when India have to pick their squad for the T20 World Cup, just see, who is going to fit into those important positions the best and not think about how do we fit Rohit Sharma in or how do we fit Hardik Pandya in or how do we fit Virat Kohli in. Um, the the biggest use of IPL that Indian cricket can make is actually finding out players who are in form and who do well in the tough moments. And it's easy even for general fans to see who are the guys that you would want in that T20 World Cup Indian side. So I'm not again going to reveal any names, but the focus has to be about what will make the Indian T20 team a force to reckon with, and especially, coming into the final rounds is easy for India. We've seen that in all the ICC events of the past, but the semis, finals, who are the guys who will help India win? And those are the guys that you've got to pick over the others who may have got more runs or wickets or whatever. So sorry, you're not going to get any names from me.
All right, but you're very familiar with all these things now to deal with the pressures of giving in to social media. But we'll wrap this up very quickly. Last question. The World Cup is around. It's not too far away. Everyone's talking about it. India versus Pakistan is the one big conversation starter that's happening in New York. How big is this going to be?
I don't know. I'm sorry, but I have a very disappointing answer. I'm not excited with it, as in, and I don't know why people are excited because it's not like it's going to the US and going to you know, the actual Americans who've never seen cricket before, or it's actually it will be all the Indian and the Asian and the cricketing countries diaspora that will be watching cricket. So it's not like it's going to US where you see, the Americans who have followed basketball or American football and baseball who'll be suddenly the audience for a cricket match. So I'm not that excited. I'm just hoping that the conditions, the pitch, and everything is great. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of Indian and Pakistan origin Americans watching that game. So, yeah,
Either ways, I'm sure you're going to be on the sidelines of that as well. But thank you so much for taking your time out, Sanjay. It's been a pleasure.
thank you. Thanks.